Welcome back.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out. I know we got a nice, solid crowd. People following us.
Yeah.
Hey, that's nice. It's nice to be popular. I
This
won't
happens
complain.
every week, by the way. So if you want to come
Yeah,
back, hit the
yeah.
notifications.
Follow us, and we will hit you up when we're doing it again. And we for sure have stuff like this to talk about every week. We have like big features that's kind of been my thing. We were just talking about how long I've been back at New Relic, which is about I think it's about 9 months now. And also I just looked and it's 11 months, but okay. Not counting good.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Uh, that one of the most interesting things is that the thing that's really changed about New Relic is I talk to people every day who are sending really good, interesting data to New Relic and getting a lot of value out of it, but are also not using everything that they get, right? They're like big cool tools that they just they use New Relic every day, and just like there's a million things that Visual Studio Code does that I don't know anything about, right? When is that not true of your SaaS tools? But that's sort of like incident intelligence is a big one where I want to see everybody doing it. I want to see everybody having a Slack channel somewhere where they're getting a few notifications. It's like, oh yeah, here's the anomalies that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you're going to come
Yeah.
speak and not be muted about muting.
Yes, exactly. Um,
Which, by
it's
the way, had us sweating for 2 seconds because our moderator said muting rules, and I was like, "Are we still on?"
Are we not muting? Should we be muting? Am I
what are
talking
you
too
trying to
loud
tell me?
again?
Exactly. No, thanks for having me on, of course. And this is a cool transition talking about Devin seeing all the things, right? Nate bringing the things together so you don't get notified as much, right? I'll talk about the beauty of silence, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you're trying to roll out a release, right? Do a deployment, whether it's planned or unplanned, and things are going to be behaving erratically in the process, maybe, right? How much do you love having your phone blow up the whole time that's happening, telling you what you already know,
Well,
right?
there's only one thing I love more than that, which is having it not be my phone that's blowing up while I'm trying to deploy stuff, and having
Exactly.
someone very cranky at the coffee machine the next morning being like, "Hey, were you experimenting at all with Prod 2
Yeah,
last night?"
exactly. Yeah. You're welcome. I knew that was going to happen, but I just didn't care. So
Yeah.
So we will talk about how to use muting rules, a relatively new capability for managing those, let's call them maintenance windows. Maintenance windows may be a little bit of an outdated term,
Yeah.
but maintenance windows, when things are going to be a little bit, unexpected,
If
right?
it's an outdated term, what would you call it now then?
Well, we try not to have maintenance windows where customers are out, right? Where you're doing rolling deployments. You're doing a deployment to a system where maybe a third of those entities will be down. This is sort of in a blue green mode, right? But we often we still have maintenance windows. It's a term people connect to.
Yeah, and I think some other examples that probably you're going to be on the web was like maybe you have some well, okay, delayed job is an old way to refer to it, but you have some process like you go through every night and you say here's which accounts need to be upgraded or which accounts need to be notified, and your normal task which updates accounts in response to user behavior, we want that to come back in 3 seconds, but this one takes an hour and a half, right?
Yeah.
So, you know that these jobs are going to happen at a certain time every night.
Yep. Absolutely.
And this is like, this is a request that has existed for a very long time, is that not even that you have to shut things down, but just, this thing is going to spike. It spikes every week at this
Yep.
time, or just we know it's going to spike at this time. How do we shut that down for everybody? How do we make sure that's muted?
Exactly. That's a specific feature request we had recently of, hey, Friday night, Saturday night, we run these batch jobs that peg these machines. We know they're going to go to 95% utilization. That's fine. Don't tell me about it, right? I watch it with another condition, and that will let me know if it goes to 98%, right? So,
all right, let's mute some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's enjoy the sound of silence.
Yeah, I'll fill that silence with my golden voice. We will. Our scenario here is, say, over the next 3 Sundays, we are going to be doing large upgrades to our Kafka cluster, our huge Kafka cluster in our staging environment called Stage Huge Sugar. right? That's it. We'll be updating between 6 p.m., 9 p.m. For the next 3 Sundays, right? So here's the service. So the question is right now, what are all the conditions, alert conditions, that might be affected by when I modify this service? I don't know. I didn't set those up myself. Other teams did, right? But I want to make sure that I am not affecting it. I know the name of the cluster, and I know that for entities and components of the Kafka cluster, I tag those with a cluster equals stage huge sugar Kafka, right? So another thing that we recently released a bit quietly, because it's part of a larger effort around AI analytics, right? We are now writing out to your NRDB account, where you can run Nurgle queries against every violation event. So if a violation opens or a violation closes, we capture the event with all of its associated metadata. So we can now run a query against that event type, which we call NR AI incident. These are violations. We won't go into why we're calling them incidents, other than maybe a nod to some future naming changes. But just know for now, here I ran the query. I said, tell me a count of all the violations over the last 30 days that have included tags.cluster equals stage huge sugar Kafka, right?
Yeah. And
you can see that there's a variety of them, right? Sometimes they spike up. This is probably the last maintenance window, right there. So historically, before we had muting rules, you would have to go to every alert condition and turn it off.
Yeah.
But that is a sledgehammer approach.
Yeah, there was a post recently from the guy at iRobot. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. He does a bunch of cool serverless stuff. But he's like, oh, we're writing a script to go through and turn off all these alert conditions on AWS, which is like, oh boy, that's kind of epic.
Yeah, and only if you know them all, first of all, right?
Yeah.
And when you turn it off, you stop all the streaming data flow. We kill all the buffers. It goes quiet, right? We have, out of those streaming alert buffers, we are notifying our entity platform of all the activity, right? So, your entities are all green, good health. You're going to go into some maintenance windows or some activities. Those entity health status indicators will go from yellow to red, letting you know there's a problem with those entities. It's good to be able to see those go down, come back up, all's good, all's green, etc.
Yeah, this is kind of a critical distinction, right? Yeah. Muting is not like deleting the monitor, right, or disabling monitoring, right? So if, for example, someone goes in at that time and says, why isn't something working? They'll still see, well, yeah, I mean, maintenance window or not, the thing is in red, right? Yeah, exactly. It's not responding.
Healthy. It's down, right?
So you'll still get that information. It's just that you won't, again, be muted, right? You won't get notified about it necessarily at the same level.
We are muting the notification. The rest of the life cycle and all the subordinate systems are still flowing, right? So this is a better approach to the sort of sledgehammer approach of the past. I may not even know all the conditions, so therefore I missed 2 of them and somebody still got woken up, right? So let's see, Rick, how many conditions do I even have here? Is it spread across multiple ones? So let's add a facet clause here on condition name. Live demo, see what works. Okay, there it comes back. So what, 7? If my math is correct there, 7, my counting's correct, 7 different alert conditions that in the last 30 days had a violation that included that tag, right? But there could have been 20 more conditions that violated, 90 days ago or are normally green that will blow up once I turn this thing off. So I can't reliably go find all the conditions, right? And if you want to know what this particular event looks like, here's a query where I just said from in our AI incident, select star, where tags.cluster equals, the name of the cluster, right? And you can see here that we capture a lot of meta information about the process, the evaluation and violation opening process. Here's the query that we ran. Here's the tags.cluster that it's on, right? But these are violations that spread across multiple conditions. So we want to say everywhere, every violation that has this tags.cluster, right? We want to change this muted operator to true, right? And that's what we do. We have a process that captures the stream of these violation events, right? Everything is an asynchronous stream through the system. So it intercepts these violation events, right? Matches on the metadata that you see here, these attributes, and basically stamps it with muted equals true. And that tells the system downstream, the incident lifecycle management system, when it gathers the violations that go into an incident, it says, oh, when I open the incident, if all of the violations are muted, don't send out a notification, right? Now, as soon as one violation comes in that was not muted, it goes back to normal state. It will send the notification, and the rest of the notification lifecycle continues as it normally would, right? But we want to make sure that all the relevant ones get stamped with muted equals true, all right? So we're going to take this tags.cluster equals stage huge sugar Kafka. I'll copy that out, right? And then I'll go to, let me get that thing out of my way, go over here to create muting rules. Now I go to create muting rules by going to the alerts and AI, coming down here to muting rules. And this is a new Relic 1 screen, which means it's going to show you all of the muting rules that are configured for all of the accounts that you have access to, right? And when you first load this screen, it will list out all the muting rules that are already created. Right? Obviously, this is a bunch of test data. And it tells you if that muting rule is currently active, which means it is running, watching for that stream of events. It's stamping muted equals true on those things, right? Versus some are scheduled for later. They are enabled. The green slider tells you that it's enabled, but it's not running right now. It's scheduled for later. When is it scheduled for? February 26th at 3:30 p.m., right? Running until 4:30 p.m. for whatever that's about, right? So let's jump in and make one. Click over here in the add a rule button. And, pretty basic form. You're going to define it. I'm going to say this is Kafka staging maintenance for March, right? As my rule name, right? I'm going to come up with some description. I'm going to say.
Oh, what do we do? Do we pause screen share maybe?
It's not showing what you're
Oh,
doing.
is it showing now?
No,
okay.
Because you only shared the window.
Oh yeah, but you see I typed in the rule name?
No, we're still looking at the query builder.
Oh, interesting. It must have froze as I use my clipboard manager.
There we go.
Is it back?
There it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird. I'm
Clipboard
sorry.
manager.
I shift focuses, so I'm sorry.
It's like throwing a glass of water on an Android. It's just like, no.
Yeah.
Clipboard should have one thing.
Exactly. I try to be sly and only share Chrome, but not my whole
having multiple things in a clipboard violates the second rule of robotics. I think that's the thing.
Yes. So add a description. Hey, we are upgrading the cluster, whatever, right? Upgrading.
Thank you, chat. By the way, thank you for letting us know.
Thank you.
I eventually noticed it.
Now, when the last screen showed you all muting rules for all your accounts, we are still creating a muting rule within one account.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in the future, we break that barrier, but right now, this is the reality. It runs within one account.
If you're one of our top, people, and you have 1 million accounts, let us know, and we'll put that in as the top priority feature request. But for most people, right, you maybe have an account for test, staging, and dev, or and production or something. So usually this will, I promise, if you're thinking about the New Relic 3 free tier, that will not be a big barrier.
Yeah. So obviously, this is available also through our NerdGraph APIs, through Terraform, et cetera, right? So if you have a more complex multi-account environment, you may have to go back to an API kind of situation, right? Mm-hmm. The great thing about going against the attributes of the violations is it's cross-cutting. Like if you're going to work on everything in one AWS availability zone, you can say your word tag AWS zone equals whatever, right? And it would mute in a very broad cross-account way, but just not cross-accounts way.
Yeah, this is something I absolutely love about the AWS integration is that since it brings in, obviously region and the other attributes that are available inside AWS, you very likely have what you need already as an attribute. You don't have to go in and say, when you run this request, be sure to add this attribute, because it should already, pretty much everything you need should already be there.
Yep. So here, now I'm afraid of using my clipboard, and I gotta say I am. Let me just get one.
Good news. We're not frozen now. We're good. We're good now for right
I'm
now.
actually just cut and paste with the old-fashioned way, not using.
Oh yeah, but
tool.
this is,
So
again, mad respect for anybody who's willing to build a query live, clipboard
exactly.
or no clipboard.
So I went back and grabbed that level. So we're anywhere where tag.cluster equals that string, then apply the muting. And you can make compound conditions in this situation where attribute A or attribute B and attribute C is in place. But we're gonna keep it simple for now. Now let's good.
I was going to say, someone in the chat asks, so entity tags automatically get enriched onto violations, and can you use those when muting?
Great
Fantastic.
question. Where do tags come from? So there are currently 2 places. Soon will be 3 places that tags come from. Well, there's already 3 places that tags come from. So in a signal, right, when you run a query and you say facet hostname, right? Well, that hostname key value pair will come through from the query in through the alerts evaluation process. And I'll call those signal tags, right? And if you have key value pairs in your event data, in your data points that you want to force through, you just add additional attributes to the facet clause. So facet hostname, comma AWS region, comma team, comma entity.good, etc. It will force that information from the signal query into the alerts evaluation flow, and it will keep those as key value pairs. Now, when we have an entity GUID available for that query, right? So if you're querying on one particular entity signal, we'll have an entity GUID. Then we go out to our entity tag system as part of the Inter1 platform, and we bring those tags in. And we include that superset of tags on the violation. The third area is if you add tags to an alert condition, which we'll be expanding out here soon, that data will come into a violation. So a violation includes the union of all the tags from signals to entities, stamps them on the violation in that tag dot or tags dot namespace on the violation itself. Right. This is the material representation of a violation object here. As it flows through our system, this is how you should think about it. So all those tags will appear here like this: tags.attribute, tags.tag name, and will be listed out. And so yes, you can use any of that information to mute this violation, because this is exactly what you're querying against. You're just changing mute it false to mute it true in the flow, and that affects the rest of the lifecycle. Right? And that's what this rule will do. It'll map on tag.cluster equals that. Here I'll be open and transparent. It's sort of the way of Stitch. We just changed it from tag to tags in what we wrote it out to be consistent across our telemetry flow. And there's still a little bit of a defect there that they have to fix right now.
As someone who first learned Rails in like 2012, I can say that no other system, no system before since has truly figured out plurals, and we never will.
Exactly.
So all I can say is I think plurals should be eliminated from human languages, and that would solve our problem.
I agreed, but I didn't win, so here we go with tags.
I want to eat 6 apple. It's easy. That's better. That's more elegant.
Exactly. So let's schedule this thing, right? If you didn't schedule it and you saved it, you said enable on save, it would be active and start muting right away. And it would be muting until you told it to stop muting, until you turned it off, right? Disabled it. I don't want that. I want to start at 6 p.m. I said, right? Type of 6 p.m. And I want to run and I want to start on this coming Sunday. And I want it to run until 7 p.m. on that same date, right? And, I will use my local time zone here. I want to repeat every week on Sunday until when? I'll say after 3 occurrences, so I don't have to look at a calendar. And that's it. I'm going to add that rule. I saved it, right? And now my rule should be here. Look at me here. That's right. Here's the one I created yesterday during my dry run. So here they are, down here at the bottom, right? I can edit the rule, and I can be a good citizen here and remove my rule before it actually starts to do things. and I upset people who I don't directly work with.
Hey, they'll appreciate the weekend off whether or not the service goes down.
Exactly.
Be quiet.
And then if you want to monitor for which violations are being muted, you can just run this same query and watch for where muted equals true. And it'll tell you if anything is being muted. And you can make a little circle and you can be alerted whenever anything is muted if you want to make sure that people aren't forgetting to turn off their muted stuff. So that's
really neat. Yeah, and obviously, we want to make sure we're keeping an eye on that, right? Because muting rules are great. The fact that we have to make a positive decision to turn on a muting rule rather than it being somehow automatic is great, because it's very unlikely that we're going to turn off anything that really is critical to us. But it's nice to be able to have a nice overview, right? Because it is worth saying, especially if we're saying, hey, we missed this alert or that alert, to go look and say, hey, did we go ahead and mute, some stuff that we shouldn't have? Yeah. Now, let me ask, we've been talking about free tier, and we're seeing a lot of people, trying out New Relic for the first time or sort of going deep on New Relic for the first time in the last few weeks, which has been fantastic.
Exciting.
If somebody's just hopping in, is this something that they can try right from the start on that sort of, I know free tier is maybe not the final term, but
whatever we call it, this is available to anybody and everybody. We feel that for you to truly adopt alerting, we have to get rid of the annoying parts. This is one of them.
The GIF asks, now I know you're curious, is it a GIF? No, it is the GIF, GIF, which I don't know what it is, and I, as usual, when reading something from the internet, I hope it's not something horrible, asks, I see a widget on the summary page called muted violations. Is that related to this? Yes,
because what you're truly muting is the violation object. The incident, which is a grouping of violation objects, isn't really muted. It just hasn't sent out a notification yet because all of its constituent members of violations are muted, right? So is the incident muted? We could discuss over beers, but I would say no. I would say the
it's like a Ship of Theseus problem. If you mute every board within the Ship of Theseus.
Yes. So that's that's the situation. And we just released the recurring scheduling portion of it. We've had muting rules now for 6 months or so, incrementally, without scheduling, with recurring scheduling. And now I think this is the complete set that you need in order to fully operationalize this. Adding in monitoring to make sure you don't forget to turn it off, or you didn't realize it was still turning on every Sunday, etc. Right?
So I love this. I really think that we're looking at improving the lives of our operations people and people doing DevOps, which is just fantastic. Yeah. We have taken a good chunk of time to talk about the really kind of deep ability that we have to control how people are getting notified, and I think it might be time for something completely different. But Brian, did you have anything you want to plug? Did you have a blog post out about this or other stuff we want to look at? Otherwise, there will be a blog post on next week covering this.
Not a blog post on the most recent item. Just I'll share that what we're working on now is building in these task flows into the rest of the NR1 product. So back here from the Kafka admin sort of service page, you could choose to mute it right from here, right? So all the metadata flows through, and the same with creating alert conditions that will be sort of integrated throughout the product.
Nice. And I dropped a couple links to if you want to see documentation on any of this. It's there. I guess I didn't format it right, so sorry. It's kind of a blob of text, but sorry for the text bomb. But yeah, I promise the links are there.
Awesome. I'm going to transition us out, keyboard cat.